Hi friends, welcome to a Techie Solution. Today's lecture is on mathematics. So in this lecture we are going to discuss some basic concepts of uh, ratio and proportion. So in this question we have to define the ratio. So ratios are defined as A ratio B. So if we take two number, A is equal to 20 and B is equal to 30, so we have to take the SCF. So SCF is the highest common factor. So highest common factor is 10. So we get the value of 20 is 2 and 30 as 3. So 2 and 3 is the ratio of A and B. So we have to find different proportions of these numbers. If we have three numbers A, B and C, in the examiner asks what is the proportion of A, B and C. So in this example we have to learn the concept of this proportion. So in a combined ratio, if A is to B, ratio is 2 is to 3, B is to ratio C is 5 is to 2, and C is to D ratio is 1 is to 2, and we have to find out the ratio between A, B and C, and A, B, C and D. So how you can calculate the ratios of these numbers, as we can see in the whiteboard. So we can represent all these ratios like this. A is to B ratio is 2 is to 3, and C is the nearest to 3. So we put 3 below the C. Now B ratio C is 5 is to 2. So corresponding to B is 5 and corresponding to C is 2. So we find that B is the nearest to A, so we put 5 right here. And this way we calculate the product between these numbers, and 3 multiplied by 2 we got 6, 3 multiplied by 5 we get 15, 2 multiplied by 5 we got 10. So 10 is to 15 is to 3. So we have to find out the SCF of this number to get the ratios between A, B and C. So 3 is a common and 2 is also common. So we take 2 is the common factor. 3 is to no, highest common factor is not available in case of 15 in 2. So we cannot write right here. So the highest common factor is not available right here because 15 is not divisible by 2, and if we take 3, 10 is not divisible by 3. So the ratio of A, B and C is 10 is to 15 is to 6. If we have to find out the ratio between A, B, C and D, then what we can do, it's the same procedure just like previous one. So below A and B we represent 2 and 3. So nearest to C and D is 3. So we put the value 3 corresponding to C and D. Now next, B is to C ratio is 5 is to 2. So what is the nearest value corresponding to A? So it's 5, and what's the nearest value toward D? It's 2. So we put the value 5 and 2 below A and D. Now the C and D ratio is 1:2. So what's the nearest to C, B and A? So we put 1 corresponding to A and B, because C is the nearest to this one. After that we have to multiply all these numbers. So 3 multiplied by 2, 6, 6 multiplied by 2, 12, 3 multiplied by 2, 6, 6 multiplied by 1 is equal to 6, 3 multiplied by 5, 15, plus 15 multiplied by 1 is equal to 15, and 5 multiplied by 2 is equal to 10, 10 multiplied by 1, 10. If we take common, but 15 and 3 is not divisible by 2 and 5, 2 and 3. So that's why this is the complete ratio of A, B, C and D. Now we are going to solve the questions we have written on a whiteboard. If A is to ratio B is equal to 7:9, and B is to ratio C is equal to 3:5, then find the A ratio B ratio C. So how you can find the ratios of A, B and C? In this case, as we have discussed earlier, we represent A, B, C, then we put the values corresponding to A 7, and we put the value 9 corresponding to B. So 7 correspond to A, 9 correspond to B. Now C is the nearest toward B, so we put the value 9 corresponding to C, and the B and C ratio is 3:5, so we have to put 3 and 5 below B and C. Now we can see that what is the nearest to A? Nearest to A is B, so we put the value 3 corresponding to A. Now we multiply the values. 9 multiplied by 5 is equal to 45, 9 multiplied by 3 is equal to 27, and 7 multiplied by 3 is equal to 21. So after that, if we get the highest common factor out, then we get the values, we get the ratios corresponding to A, B and C. Now in this case 3 is the common factor. So 3 is the common factor, so we take 3 outside these 3 is a common factor, highest common factor. So 3 multiplied by 7 is equal to 21, 9 multiplied by 3 is equal to 27, and 15 multiplied by 3 is equal to 45. So this is our answer. Now let's take another question. If 2A is equal to 3B is equal to 4C, then we have to find out the ratios between A, B and C. Now we represent 2A is equal to 3B, so we can find the ratios by taking the variables A and B variables on one side, and the numbers on the other side. So A divided by B is equal to 3 divided by 2. So A is to B ratio is 3:2. So A is to B ratio is A is to B ratio is 3:2. So we represent correspond to A 3, and 2 correspond to B. Now we can find out B ratio C in a similar manner. So B divided by C is equal to 4 divided by 3. So B is to C is equal to 4 by 3. B is to C is equal to 4 by 3. So as we have seen earlier that we can represent the values corresponding to A, B and C. Now put the value 3 and 2 correspond to A and B. This is the first ratio. Now C is nearest to B, so we put 2 here, right here, and B ratio C is 4 by 3. So we put B ratio 3 4 by 3, and A is nearest to B, so we put 4 right here. We multiply the values between each other, so 3 multiplied by 2 is equal to 6, 4 multiplied by 2 is equal to 8, 4 multiplied by 3 is equal to 12. So we take highest common factor outside. 6 is the highest, 2 is the highest common factor, so we put 2 outside. So 2 multiplied by 6 is equal to 12, 2 multiplied by 4 is equal to 8, and 2 multiplied by 3 is equal to 6. So 6 is to 4 is to 3 is the ratio of A, B and C. Now let's take another example. A sum of Rs 1300 is divided between A, B, C and D. There are 4 numbers A, B, C and D, and 1300 is divided in between these numbers. So what is the ratio? Ratio is A divided by B, B divided by C, C divided by D is equal to 2 by 3. So ratio is 2 by 3 between each other. So how you can calculate these values? We can put the 2 and 3 corresponding to each ratio. So first ratio is A is to B, we put 2 is to 3 right here. Now C is nearest to B, so we put 3 here, and D is nearest to B, so we put 3 here. So after that then B is to C, B is to C is equal to 2 is to 3, so we put 2 is to 3 corresponding to B is to C. Now what is the nearest value of A? Is nearest to B, so we put the value 2 right here. And what is the who is the nearest to our D? 3 is the nearest, so we put the value 3 right here. Now third one is C is to D ratio is 2 by 3, so we put 2 by 3 corresponding to C is to D. Now we find that B and A are nearest toward C, so we put 2 corresponding to A and B. Now we multiply each values between each other. 3 multiplied by 3 9, 9 multiplied by 3 is equal to 27. Now 3 multiplied by 3 by 9 multiplied by 2 18, 18 is next answer. Now 3 into 2 is equal to 6, 6 multiplied by 2 is equal to 12, 2 multiplied by 2 4, 4 multiplied by 2 is equal to 8. We take the highest common factor, but in this case there is no highest common factor. Now from the question that A, B, C and D divided 1300, so we put the values 8 part, 12 part, 18 part, 27 part is equal to 1300. So we add up all these parts and we got 65 part is equal to 1300. Now one part is equal to 1300 divided by 65. So we got one part is equal to 20. So in this way we can find out the values of different ratios and the proportions. If you like this video, please like us, share us, subscribe us. Thank you very much for your love and support.